Perfect. So, good morning. My name is Ali, and here I have Lieutenant Bryant and Amy G, or Manager, sorry, Manager of Public Affairs Amy. And we are going to talk about the overview of the special event sponsorship program for the upcoming fiscal year 2025 to 26. And I will start sharing my slides unless you guys have anything else to add.
Oh, thank you.
Share screen one. Okay. Can everybody see this? Still good?
Yes, we can see
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
So today, as mentioned, we'll go over the virtual, sorry, let me just fix this. We'll go over the overview of the sponsorship program for the upcoming fiscal year. So the agenda today will be an overview of the program, the eligibility criteria, the LOI or the letter of intent application process, sorry, the funding allocation, sorry, we don't do scoring anymore. We'll talk about the payment and reimbursement and final report as well. And then at the end, we can have a little Q&A session if you guys have any questions. So at this time, there are no changes to any of the special event sponsorship program goals, the LOI, or the application. The only possible change that we may have would be city service costs for special event staffing, which will be if there is any sort of increase, it will be effective July 1st, 2025, but we'll process that around the springtime if there are any sort of increases. So the Special Event Sponsorship Program, or SESP, has been established and adopted by the City Council in 2019, and it offers financial assistance to support large-scale special events. And large-scale special events include festivals, parades, community celebrations that require overtime or any sort of city services that right here, like says, require overtime or specialty staff support from police department, fire department, public works or streets, and or community services on the day or days of your event. And this program is meant to partially offset the cost of city services and will cover a certain percentage of your total cost. The program aims to foster successful community events that enhance economic development, encourages community participation, promotes art or cultural growth, and it provides a rich variety of festivities for residents and visitors for Fremont. So regarding eligibility, there are two different criterias for event and the event organizer. So the events have to take place between July 1st, 2025 to June 30, 2026 in the city of Fremont. And it's not to be conducted as a fundraiser for a cause or advocate a political position. Religious events are generally not prohibited, but it should have an educational or cultural celebration component. Most most of the events should be in support of all four of the program goals, and it, as mentioned earlier, it should require the use of city services on the day or days of the event, including police, fire, streets, or any sort of facility rental at the downtown event center. Anything that also includes street closures that are conducted by city-approved vendors. And it must have other sources of funding sufficient to cover at least 50% of all anticipated event-related expenses. As far as the event organizer criteria, they must be in good financial and operational standing with the City of Fremont. So that means no outstanding balances due to the city. They must be legally registered as a 501c3 nonprofit organization or a 501c6 business entity. You must have a valid City of Fremont business tax certificate or a Fremont business tax exemption from the city's finance department. And your event must be established within at least 1 year. Oh, sorry, the event organizer must be established with at least 1 year of a successful event history with the City of Fremont for any sort of similar event. New events hosted by organizers are not legible until year 2. And successful event history means that they have adhered to all permitting conditions and their event has not resulted in any complaints by the community or have not had any violations of permitting or municipal codes.
Just one second, Ellie.
Sure.
We have a comment from one of the attendees saying that the full slides are not visible on the screen, and
Oh,
some of the presenter thumbnails are overlapping. I'm not sure if that's how it appears to you, Lieutenant Brian. For me, I am able to see the full slides, and that's typically how it's being
um,
recorded. So
okay.
and just so the attendees know, we are going to be sharing these slides on the city's website afterwards. So if you have further questions, we could get to those towards the end of the presentation. I wouldn't. I'm hoping that you can at least see a portion of us of the slides because for most of us is looking okay. I'm not sure if you may have specific settings on your Zoom that you may want to see. Because one thing we could potentially do is, Ellie, if you want to stop sharing and reshare again and see if that
Okay.
may fix the issue. But otherwise, we'll just continue on and we'll be sharing these slides.
Sure. Let me do that. Sorry, I couldn't see the Q&A when I have the screens on or the presentation on.
No worries. That's why we're here.
Where'd you go? Let's see. Can you guys see this?
Yes, I can see it. It looks fine.
Julie, are you able to see this screen? Let me move my Q&A so I can see it just in case.
Yep.
Okay. I'm assuming everything's good. I didn't
Yeah,
get a
looks fine
question.
for
So,
now.
um, the going back to the application process. So as mentioned previously, the application process has not changed and neither has the actual application itself. So step one in this process is submitting the letter of intent, which is the LOI. Okay, sorry, I'm reading the Q&A session. So the LOI submission, it's an online web form that collects information about your intended event. It's very simple, maybe takes about on average maybe 3 minutes. And it's due by Wednesday, January 15th at 12 p.m. And the website is on here, and it's also linked to the main webpage of this special event sponsorship program website, which I'll also have at the end. Step two, after approval, you will have the ability to submit a full application. And sorry, yeah, so applicants will be able to proceed with submitting a full application, and you need to submit an entire packet that's, I'll outline it on the next page. That application is going to be due on Wednesday, March 26, 2025, also at 12 p.m. And incomplete LOIs and applications are not accepted, and deadline is non-negotiable. So I would recommend getting the letter of intent submitted ASAP. It's very simple. As mentioned, it could take maybe 2 to 3 minutes and is just information on your intended event. The application requirements, first one is the SESP application, as mentioned. Um, Another thing that you would need is the financial statement and tax return for the prior 2 years, calendar year 2023 and calendar year 2024. If 2024 tax return has not yet been filed, the city will accept years 2022 and 2023. You would need a copy of a current valid 501c3 or 501c6 registration from the IRS. You would also need a copy of the City of Fremont Business Tax Certificate for 501c6 organizations or a confirmation of a Fremont Business Tax exemption for 501c3 organizations. And email confirmation is acceptable from the Finance Department if you would like to provide that as well. Or sorry, if you would like to provide just the email. Special event permit applications are also required for high impact events, and all necessary requirements or necessary documents are required as part of the special event permit process. And this includes the event program, event venue contract and permission, and the event site plan, documents for temporary structure permits, traffic plans, your parking plans, vendor information, management plan for public safety and crowds, your security plans, your daily ABC license application if alcohol is being served at your event, and a special event permit application fee of $200. So please note there is no fee to the SESP application itself, but there is a $200 fee for the special event permit application for high impact events. So those are two separate type of applications. One has no fee, the other one is 200, and that is required for the SESP application. You must make an in-person appointment to submit your application and all the appropriate documents. And a completed application material and documents, including your check payment of $200, must be submitted together in one packet only to the Development Services Center by appointment only. So this is an in-person appointment. We cannot take anything over email, over mail. It has to be in person, and it's going to be you're going to make an appointment with Spencer at the Community Development Center. So I have his information here, and I have the Development Services Center address listed here as well, and you will make your checks payable to City of Fremont. Please note that your appointment is not for completion of the application or questions. Please make sure you have your questions answered, anything you have prior to appointment time. It's only for your submission of the fully completed application, no exceptions. And because people still work, we still have other things to manage, please make sure that you schedule your appointment way in advance. Try to lock in your appointment by February so that you have everything in time for that March deadline. So we are no longer doing a scoring system. So the city departments or several representatives from city departments will review the applications for a pass or no pass. And this would include event narrative and significance. So we're looking at event's nature, structure, and vision, how the event aligns with the applicant's missions, purpose, and goals, and how the event components demonstrate support of our program goals as well. I'll also be looking at the financial capabilities and event execution, including the ability to produce profitable or break-even event measured on a cash basis, extent of diversified financial support and in-kind contributions. We'll also be looking at the ability and experience in producing a well-planned and safe event for our community, and how in-depth of managerial and organizational capacity there is. As far as funding allocations go, based on the information submitted on the LOI and your full application, the city staff will calculate city service staff costs related to the event. And after evaluation of city service costs for all events and the city's available budget, we will propose funding, or the city will propose funding allocations sufficient to cover a certain percentage of service costs for all events. And all proposed award allocations are proposed to council as part of the fiscal year budget adoption in June 2025. At the end of your event, a final report will be submitted or will be handed to you to fill out. So the final report, it's an after event final report, and it's a form that we provide to you that's supposed to be submitted, that should be submitted to us 90 days after the event or 30 days after the city billing information is received, whichever one comes later. Grantees must be current on filing required reports before they can receive grant funding. And post-event summary, it also includes a post-event summary describing how our program goals were met. If your sponsorship award is not sufficient to cover all city service costs, you will receive a bill for the remaining balance due. And if the reimbursement process, if your sponsorship award is sufficient to cover all city services costs, you will not be billed for the event, and any of the remaining balance can be used to reimburse for other event-related expenses. In this case, you would need to submit receipts related to your event along with your final report. And it must equal to or be greater than the amount available for reimbursement. So this is very important. Please note you need to retain all your receipts related to their events for possible auditing. This is an example of the application. So it has you describe the event, explain the SESP program goals, and ability to produce a successful and safe event. It's only 3 pages, very simple. And then the next one is this is the final report sample. So this is after your event and after the fact. It's two pages. It just asks for a post-event summary, your information, and all the event's expenses. So these are the current city services costs for street maintenance, fire, whether you have medics or inspections, fire inspections required, police. So right now, everything is as of July 1st, 2024. So I also have a hypothetical 3%, 4%, or 5% pay increase. This is dependent on COLA. And Amy, please feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything else on this slide. As of now, these are the current costs. So I just have hypothetical costs of how much it may be pending potential increases for the following year.
Yes, thank you. And some of our event organizers are familiar with the system and understand that every couple of years we do a comprehensive study on staff wages and the we would propose a certain percentage of increase based on market rates, and it will go through council. So what you're seeing here is not that comprehensive study. We have no intention to do any type of study to do an adjustment to the rates of our staff providing such services. We're just looking at hypothetical increases based on COLA, which is part of the union agreements for these employees within their specific classification. So neighborhood negotiations typically happen in spring. So right now we don't know what that increase looks like. But once we have that information, we will factor that in just as part of COLA for the next fiscal year.
Thank you. This is the current program timeline. Sorry, I have the dates wrong on there, but this is also on the main webpage for the SESP program. So as mentioned earlier, the letter of intent, the LOI has been open and is due by January 15th at 12 p.m. No exceptions, and this is just an online form. The city will start notifying applicants of their LOI results by January 29th or sooner, depending on how soon we can get that finished. And then once you get your approval, then you will be able to, the application will be open up to you starting by January 30 or around or earlier. By Wednesday, March 26, 2025 at 12 p.m., hard deadline. This is the application and special event permit deadline. And make sure this is the in-person appointment that you would need to make with Spencer. Make sure you have that set and early. Around May 2025, we will have a committee review and we will start scoring the applications. Or sorry, this is the pass and no pass. By June, we will have an approval, the proposed council review and approval date. And then as mentioned earlier, after the event, you will receive your after event final report that will be due 30 days after an invoice date or 90 days after the event, whichever one comes later. As mentioned earlier, the details can be found online. This is a direct link, which I believe I've also sent via email. This is meant to be just an overview of the program. If you have any specific questions for your event, you can reach out to me separately. And then our full SESP guidelines are also on that main webpage. For any questions regarding this program, you can contact me. I have my email address there and my desk line there. For any application submission or special event for high impact, that's not correct. For any high impact events, you can contact Spencer, and he's the person that you'll be scheduling the appointment with as well. His email is there, and so is his phone number. And thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know or put it in the Q&A. You can also reach out to me directly. Here again is my email and my desk line, and Spencer's.
Thanks, Ellie. And I would just add that the City of Fremont's intention is to support and foster and encourage community events. So the city is, very excited to look at these applications and to provide funding, provided that our event organizers go through the process. As difficult as it may seem, it sounds complicated when we say there's a lot of intent and there's an application and there's an after report. I know sometimes it sounds a little overwhelming, but if you actually look at the materials, it's some very simple paperwork that could be done in it doesn't really take that long. What I'm trying to say is, the city is not looking. So this is not like a competitive cycle where the city is looking to just select the top events to fulfill. This is more like the city's general approach to want to support community events. So if you meet the eligibility criteria and you go through the process, pretty much once we go through the budgeting process and see at council adoption approval, your event is going to be funded. But at this time, we just don't know how much that will be. We usually have a better idea in April or May of each year when the city is working on its budget for the next fiscal year. But what I can also share is that the program has grown over the years. When it was first established in 2019, I think we only had a budget of maybe 250,000 for 9 special events that apply to the program. And over the years, the number fluctuated a little bit in terms of the number of applications as well as the funding, because we also had COVID in the midst of it. And then at 1 year we had more who applied, 1 year we had less. So this current fiscal year, we had 13 events that are being supported and a $350,000 budget for the sponsorship program. So this current year, the city is basically providing funding that is sufficient to cover more than 93% of the city service costs for all of these events that applied. I know the city has every intention to support and encourage community events. So I'm hopeful that we're looking at something that is somewhat similar, but we can't speak to that until we have more information from finance and until we go to council. But I know the city will always try to make sure we can support as many events as possible. With that, I think we only have a limited number of attendees attending today's webinar. So I'm going to ask Ellie if you can promote each person to be a presenter so that way they can unmute and ask questions verbally if they have any.
Sure. Let me stop my screen share. May need assistance. Allow to talk. There you go. Hi, Julie. Go ahead.
Yes, if we are a long-term City of Fremont nonprofit that has been filing business tax returns, I'm just curious why we need to supply it again when it's already on file. If we just have either a license or account number, we can't just put that in, trying to reduce multiple paperwork and make this efficient for you all as well.
We can look into that, but I know right now the sponsorship program is very independent of the city's finance department in a way that we have specific reviewers from other departments that need to access that information. And we are unfortunately, because of some filing restrictions, we actually don't have access and we cannot have access to finance information. And it is the event applicant's responsibility to gather all the necessary documents and to prove that they're eligible to the program. I mean, if we have a very limited number of applicants, I think the city may want to evaluate the process a little bit, but it does get a little more tricky once we have 10, 15, 20, or ultimately if we have a lot of applicants, we cannot be the ones to gather the documents needed for these applicants. We need the applicant to provide their full application. So it's in a single file, and then that's what we're going to review. Yes, Julie.
I'll appreciate it if you will take that as a recommendation for improvement. Um, Most of the nonprofits are run by volunteers as well, who are donating their time, so they appreciate efficiency, as well as it'll reduce staff costs to the extent that you can leverage data that you already have. And as a former CFO, I certainly could make recommendations of how you could do that very efficiently rather than worrying about getting access to other information, and happy to help.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll definitely take that into consideration. Do we have other questions? Yes,
Hi,
Kristen.
Kristen.
Uh, Not a question, just a comment. Thanks again. This is the second year you guys have done this presentation like this, and it's extremely helpful, even those of us who have done it for many years. And I just want to say thanks. Um, I really appreciate all the effort you guys are putting in. So thanks again. Looking forward to the application process.
Yes,
Thank you,
thank you.
Kristen.
Thank you. And we do try to make the process easy for our event organizers as well as our staff. And I would encourage, if you haven't submitted your letter of intent, please go ahead and do so before the January deadline. But again, it's a relatively simple form. And we will be posting the slides as well as a recording of this webinar on the city's website. The slides, I think we just need to fix a little typo here and there, but it could probably go on the website maybe tomorrow. The recording may just take a few more days because we do have to get it captioned before we post on the website. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Ellie or to me, and we'll be more than happy to walk you through the process and guide you through the process. And again, the city is really looking forward to supporting these community events, and we want to make sure the process works for you as well.
Thank you, Amy.
Yep. Lieutenant Brian, do you have anything else to add?
No, nothing else to add. Thank you very much for the
Okay.
presentation.
All right, thank you. So with that, I think we are going to conclude our webinar this morning. So thank you so much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank
And looking
you.
forward to your applications.
Yep. Right. Thank you.
Bye.